Captain Jake Morrison made his decision in the space of a heartbeat. 600 alien warships had their weapons pointed at his crew, and every second they waited made their situation worse. In his 20 years of military service, Jake had learned one simple rule. When someone points a gun at you, you shoot first. Amy, fire a warning shot across their formation, he ordered. Show them we're not defenseless. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's hands moved across her controls without hesitation. Firing gravitational pulse cannon in 3, 2, 1. Vengeance's experimental weapon discharged with a sound like reality tearing apart. An invisible wave of twisted space-time raced toward the alien fleet at the speed of light. Jake intended it as a warning, a demonstration that humans could fight back if threatened. He had no idea what the weapon would actually do. The gravitational pulse hit 3 Zephyrian cruisers on the edge of their formation. The alien ships, built to withstand energy weapons and plasma cannons, had no defense against a weapon that attacked gravity itself. Space around the vessels twisted into impossible shapes. The ship's crystal hulls cracked like glass as opposing forces pulled them in different directions. Within seconds, all 3 cruisers collapsed into tiny points of light. They had become micro-black holes, sucking in debris and starlight before evaporating in bursts of radiation. Admiral Kex watched in horror from his flagship as 3 of his best ships simply ceased to exist. In 3 years of war, he had never seen anything like it. "What kind of weapon was that?" he demanded. His science officer, a young Zephyrian named Vex, studied his instruments with shaking hands. "Admiral, I don't understand the readings." "Enemy ships somehow manipulated local spacetime. It's theoretically impossible with our current understanding of physics." On the Vengeance, Jake stared at his tactical screen in shock. "Amy, what just happened to those ships?" "Unknown, sir," Amy replied, her voice quiet with disbelief. "The gravitational pulse was supposed to create a minor space distortion. I didn't expect it to completely destroy 3 vessels." Out. He had fired a warning shot and accidentally committed an act of war. "Kevin, get me a communication channel to those fleets. Any frequency they'll accept." "Still working on translation protocols, sir," Kevin said frantically. "I'm getting some response now, but it's mostly mathematical sequences." Before Jake could respond, the alien fleets opened fire. Admiral Kex and Hive Queen Zara had reached the same conclusion independently. This unknown species had weapons that could destroy their most powerful ships with ease. If the aliens had more vessels coming, both fleets would be wiped out. The only choice was to eliminate this threat immediately. 200 Zephyrian ships fired their crystal-focused energy beams simultaneously. 300 Hive vessels launched swarms of living missiles that could think and adapt on their own. Plasma cannons, ion torpedoes, and weapons that turned matter into pure energy all converged on the human ship. "Incoming fire from all directions," Amy shouted. "Impact in 15 seconds." Jake grabbed his command chair as the ship shuddered. Under the massive gravitational forces of the approaching weapons, "Lisa, give me everything the reactor has. Divert all non-essential power to shields." Commander Lisa Hayes was already 3 steps ahead of him. In the engine room, she manually overrode every safety system the ship had. Warning alarms screamed as the reactor output climbed far beyond design specifications. "Shields at maximum. But Captain, we can't take this kind of punishment for long." The first wave of alien weapons struck the Vengeance like a hurricane made of lightning and fire. The ship's shields flared bright white as they absorbed energy equivalent to a small star's output. Metal groaned and sparks flew from overloaded systems throughout the vessel. "Shields down to 60%, Amy reported. "Hull damage on decks 7 through 12. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "All weapons, continuous barrage." Amy's fingers flew across her controls. The Vengeance carried weapons designed for humanity's brutal approach to warfare. The kinetic projectiles accelerated to 20% of light speed. Fusion warheads that could crack open asteroids. Railguns that fired chunks of metal with the force of meteors the human weapons struck the alien ships with. Devastating effect. Zephyrian crystal hulls, designed to deflect energy beams, shattered under the impact of solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Hive vessels, grown to heal from energy damage, were torn apart by explosions that simply vaporized there. Living tissue, in 30 seconds of combat, the Vengeance destroyed 18 alien ships and damaged dozens more. But the aliens were learning fast. "Captain, they're adapting their formations," Amy warned. "The crystal ships are using some kind of networked shielding. The insect ships are releasing clouds of interference particles." Jake watched his tactical display as the alien fleets began to coordinate their attacks more effectively. Human military doctrine focused on overwhelming firepower and aggressive tactics. But these aliens had been fighting each other for 3 years. They knew how to adapt to new threats. "Launch all fighters," Jake commanded. "Send them in fast and hard." The Vengeance's launch bays opened, and 24 human fighter craft roared into space. Commander Sam Taylor led the first squadron, while Lieutenant Beth Collins commanded the second. Their ships were small and fast, designed for Earth's atmospheric combat but modified for space warfare. The human pilots flew like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Instead of maintaining safe distances and exchanging long-range fire, they dove directly into the enemy formations. When their missiles were exhausted, they used their ships as guided weapons, ramming into alien vessels at maximum speed. "These humans fight like madmen," Admiral Kex observed as he watched a human fighter deliberately crash into one of his destroyers. They used their own ships as projectiles. Hive Queen Zara was having similar thoughts as she watched human pilots perform maneuvers that should have killed them from the acceleration forces alone. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. How do we fight an enemy that considers death an acceptable tactic? The battle continued for 20 minutes that felt like hours. The Vengeance was severely damaged, its hull scarred by energy weapons and its shields failing. But the human ship had destroyed over 40 alien vessels and crippled twice that number. Then, disaster struck from an unexpected direction. Both Admiral Kex and Hive Queen Zara realized they had made a terrible mistake. By working together to fight the humans, they had abandoned their peace negotiations. The war that had been ending was now starting again, with a new enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. "All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel," Admiral Kex ordered. "Ignore the Hive forces for now." Hive Queen Zara gave similar orders to her fleet. "Focus all weapons on the unknown ship. We will deal with the crystal beings after this threat is eliminated." 400 alien warships turned their weapons on the single human vessel. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The Vengeance's shields collapsed under the assault. Energy beams began tearing into the ship's hull. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison watched his ship die around him. Explosions rocked the vessel as alien weapons punched through armor and destroyed vital systems. The smell of smoke and burned electronics filled the air. "Captain, we've lost main power," Lisa's voice came through the emergency communication. "System, life support is failing. I can give you maybe 5 more minutes?" Jake looked around his bridge at his brave crew. Amy was still at her station, firing the ship's remaining weapons even as the tactical systems exploded around her. Kevin was trying to send a final message to Earth through damaged communication arrays. They had done their duty, but it wasn't enough. "Kevin, can you get a message through to Earth?" Jake asked. "Working on it, sir," Kevin replied, blood running down his face from a head wound. "Quantum communicator is still functioning." Jake nodded grimly. "Send this message. Multiple hostile alien species encountered. Colony ship New Horizon presumed destroyed. U.S. Vengeance lost with all hands. Recommend immediate military response. Humanity is under attack." The message raced across space faster than light, carrying news of humanity's first contact with alien life. It was not the peaceful meeting that scientists had hoped for. The Vengeance broke apart under the continued alien assault. The ship's reactor went critical, creating a brief new star in the darkness of space. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew died, believing they had fought bravely against an enemy that had destroyed their missing colonists. The aliens stopped firing and stared at the expanding cloud of debris that had once been a ship. In their long, Histories of warfare. They had never encountered anything like the humans. A single vessel had destroyed nearly 50% of their ships before finally being overwhelmed. What kind of species builds weapons like that? Admiral Kex wondered aloud. He would find out sooner than he expected. The human message was already racing toward Earth, and the response would change the galaxy forever. Peace had been so close. Now, a new and terrible war was about to begin. 6 months after the destruction of the UES Vengeance, space around Kepler-44 to be filled with new ships. But these were not the careful, ceremonial formations that the aliens were used to seeing. The human fleet that arrived looked like it had been built for one purpose only. War. Admiral Connor Blake stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought U.S. Retribution, watching the alien fleets through the main viewing screen. His ship alone was larger than most alien vessels, its hull covered in weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Behind him, 200 human warships waited in perfect formation. Communications, open a channel to all alien vessels, Blake ordered in a calm, cold voice. Lieutenant Danny Morris worked quickly at his station. Unlike the tragic miscommunications 6 months earlier, human scientists had spent every waking hour learning alien languages from the battle recordings of the Vengeance. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all known alien frequencies. Blake stepped forward and spoke clearly into the communication system. This is Admiral Connor Blake of the Human Expeditionary Force. You have attacked and destroyed a human vessel. You have killed human citizens. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The message went out in 12 different alien languages, perfectly translated by computers that had worked day and night to crack the alien communication codes. On Harmony Point Station, the alien leaders who had once been so close to peace now faced a nightmare they could never have imagined. Elder Voss, his ancient face showing deep worry lines, looked at the human fleet with growing dread. They want us to surrender, he said quietly to the assembled representatives. All of us. Complete submission to their authority. Admiral Kex's crystal body flickered with angry red patterns. This is madness. We tried to explain that the battle was a misunderstanding. We offered to compensate them for their losses. Hive Queen Zara's mandibles clicked rapidly with agitation. The human admiral refused to even discuss our explanation, simply repeated his demand for surrender. The alien leaders had indeed tried to make peace with the humans. When the first human scouts had arrived 3 months earlier, Elder Voss had personally transmitted detailed records of the incident. He explained how the peace talks had been disrupted, how the unknown human ship had been misidentified as a threat, and how the tragic battle had resulted from communication failures. The human response had been swift and simple, unconditional. Surrender or total war? Perhaps we should consider their terms, suggested the representative from the Deepwater Alliance, its aquatic voice bubbling through his translator. This human admiral brought 200 ships. That is a significant force. Significant but not overwhelming, Admiral Kex replied. Between my fleet and Queen Zara's forces, we still outnumber them 2-1. Our technology is more advanced. Our ships are larger. What Admiral Kex didn't understand was that humans had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. Every piece of wreckage from the Vengeance had been analyzed. Every alien weapon's signature had been studied. Human engineers had worked around the clock to design countermeasures for alien technology. More importantly, humans had done something the aliens never expected. They had changed their entire approach to warfare. Admiral Blake, the aliens are refusing to surrender, reported Lieutenant Maurice. They're maintaining their defensive positions around the station. Blake nodded as if he had expected this response. Very well. Communications. Send the following message to Earth Command. Phase 2 is authorized. Repeat. Phase 2 is authorized. The message raced back to Earth through quantum communicators. Within minutes, the response came back. Authorization confirmed. Proceed with Phase 2 operations. All ships, execute Phase 2, Blake commanded. The human fleet split into 6 different groups, each one heading toward a different target. But they were not attacking the alien warships directly. Instead, they moved toward the space stations, supply depots. and communication relays that kept the alien fleets operational. What are they doing? Hive Queen Zara demanded as she watched the human ships scatter. This is not how space battles are fought. Admiral Kex was equally confused. They should be concentrating their forces for a direct assault. Instead, they're dividing their fleet. It makes no tactical sense. Elder Voss watched the human movements with growing understanding and horror. They're not trying to defeat our fleets, he said slowly. They're trying to destroy our ability to fight at all. First human attack group reached the main communication relay station that connected both alien fleets to their homeworlds. The station's defenders were a small force of mixed alien ships, not prepared for the kind of assault that hit them. Human ships didn't try to capture the station or negotiate with its defenders. They simply destroyed it completely using weapons. That turned the massive structure into expanding clouds of debris. Within 10 minutes, both alien fleets were cut off from their command structures back home. The second attack group hit the main supply depot, where alien ships refueled and resupplied. Again, the humans showed no interest in capturing valuable resources. They destroyed everything, leaving the alien fleets with whatever fuel and ammunition they currently carried. They're destroying everything, Admiral Kex said in disbelief. As he watched his supply lines disappear, they're not even trying to capture our technology or resources. It's worse than that, Hive Queen Zara realized. Without those supply stations, our fleets cannot operate in this region for more than a few weeks. They're forcing us to retreat. The third and fourth human attack groups moved toward the outer system, where they began methodically destroying every piece of infrastructure the aliens had built. Mining stations, research outposts, sensor arrays, and defensive platforms all vanished under concentrated human fire. Admiral Blake, Phase 2 objectives are complete, reported Captain Sarah Wells from the attack group commander. All alien infrastructure in the system has been eliminated. Excellent, Blake replied. Begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was the most terrifying part of the human strategy. Instead of attacking the alien homeworlds directly, human ships began appearing in star systems throughout both empires. They didn't invade or occupy these systems. They simply destroyed every space-based facility they found and then disappeared. Within 2 weeks, the Zephyrian Empire and Hive Confederation found themselves completely isolated from their colonies and unable to coordinate military operations across their territories. Trade stopped. Communication networks failed. Lost contact with their superiors. How is this possible? Admiral Kex demanded during an emergency meeting with the other alien leaders. We have thousands of ships spread across hundreds of star systems. How can such a small human force cause this much damage? Elder Voss had been studying human military tactics from historical records that the quantum communication networks had transmitted before being destroyed. Their entire approach to warfare is different from ours, he explained. We fight to defeat enemy fleets in glorious battle. Humans fight to destroy the enemy's ability to make war at all. But this is barbaric, protested the representative. From the stone builders, where's the honor in destroying civilian infrastructure? Where's the glory in attacking supply lines instead of fighting warrior to warrior? Honor and glory are luxuries, Elder Voss replied sadly. Humans fight to win, not to achieve honor. The final blow came when Admiral Blake's fleet returned to Kepler 4-4 to be after 3 weeks of systematic destruction. The alien fleets were still there, still powerful, but completely cut off from the rest of their empires. Admiral Blake, to all alien vessels, came the human transmission. You now have a choice. Surrender unconditionally and accept human terms. For peace, or watch your civilization slowly collapse as we continue to destroy every piece of infrastructure you possess. This time, the alien response was different. This is Admiral Kex of the Zephyrian Empire, came the reply. We wish to discuss terms. This is Hive Queen Zara of the Confederation, came a second transmission. We also wish to negotiate. Admiral Blake smiled grimly. There will be no negotiations. There will be unconditional surrender, or there will be the complete destruction of your ability to wage war. You have 1 hour to decide. Elder Voss met with Admiral Blake aboard the Retribution later that day. The ancient alien looked small and frail next to the tall human admiral. The human ship's corridors were filled with soldiers carrying weapons, and every surface seemed designed for war rather than diplomacy. "Why did you choose this path?" Elder Voss asked, as they sat in Blake's stark conference room. "We explained that the original incident was a misunderstanding. Your Captain Morrison was not deliberately attacked." Blake's expression didn't change. "The explanation doesn't matter," he said simply. "You fired on a human ship. You killed human citizens. The moment you made that choice, everything that followed became inevitable." "But we were achieving peace," Elder Voss protested. "After 3 years of war, we were finally ending the bloodshed. Your arrival destroyed that." "Peace was your choice to make 6 months ago," Blake replied. "The moment you fired on our ship, peace became our choice to make. We chose differently." Elder Voss stared at the human admiral for a long moment. "And what kind of peace will you impose?" The space station Harmony Point looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness. Its 12 arms stretched out toward the stars, each one designed for a different alien species. The station spun slowly around the gas giant Kepler-4 for 2b, its lights twinkling against the planet's blue and gold clouds. Inside the main meeting hall, 12 different alien races sat around a circular table. The room was huge, with sections built for creatures that breathed different gases and lived in different temperatures. Some areas were filled with water for the fish-like Deepwater Alliance. Other sections glowed with pure energy for the Lumina Collective, who had no solid bodies at all. Admiral Kex stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body made of living crystal that changed colors when he was angry or excited. Right now, his crystal skin showed calm blue patterns as he read through the peace treaty documents. His people, the Zephyrians, had been fighting a terrible war for 3 years. Millions had died on both sides. Across from him sat Hive Queen Zara, her insect-like body covered in black armor that gleamed under the station lights. Her forearms moved quickly as she made notes on her datapad. Behind her stood 12 of her warrior drones, each one 7 feet tall with razor-sharp claws. The Hive Confederation had lost entire planets in this war. Whole star systems had been burned to ash. Elder Voss moved slowly between the different groups. His ancient race. The Keepers had lived for thousands of years and seen many wars come and go. His wrinkled gray skin and wise old eyes had watched civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy. Today, he felt hopeful. After months of talks, peace was finally within reach. The mining rights in the Nebula sector will be split equally between both empires, Elder Voss said in his calm voice. The translator devices around the room turned his words into sounds and lights that each species could understand. The Zephyrian Empire keeps the crystal worlds. The Hive Confederation keeps the metal-rich asteroids. Admiral Kex's crystal body flickered with approval. "This is acceptable to my people," he said. His voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We have lost too many ships fighting over those rocks." Hive Queen Zara clicked her mandibles together, which meant she was thinking hard. "My drones need the metals to build new hives," she said. Her voice buzzed like 1,000 bees. "But we can agree to this trade." The other alien species watched quietly. The plant-like Verdani swayed their leaves in approval. The rock creatures called the Stone Builders rumbled deep sounds of agreement. Even the gas beings known as the Wind Dancers spun their cloudy forms. In happy patterns, Elder Voss smiled, something his kind rarely did. Then we moved to the final section. The Treaty of Eternal Harmony will establish trade routes between all 12 species. Technology will be shared. No more wars will be fought over territory or resources. Admiral Kex and Hive Queen Zara looked at each other across the table. For 3 years, their fleets had destroyed each other's worlds. Cities had burned. Children had died. Soldiers had fought and never returned home. Both leaders were tired of death. "I agree to these terms," Admiral Kex said, his crystal body now glowing soft gold. "My people want peace. The Hive accepts," Zara buzzed. "We will sign this treaty." Outside the station, the 2 most powerful fleets in the galaxy waited in space. Admiral Kex commanded over 200 Zephyrian warships. Their crystal hulls reflected starlight like diamonds. Each ship carried weapons that could crack open planets and shields, that could stop laser beams hot enough to melt steel. The Hive fleet was different, but just as deadly. 300 black ships moved in perfect formation like a swarm of angry wasps. Hive ships were grown instead of built, their living hulls able to heal damage and adapt to new weapons. Thousands of fighter craft buzzed around the larger ships like insects around a nest. The other species had brought smaller fleets. But altogether, nearly 600 warships filled the space around Harmony Point. It was the largest gathering of military power the galaxy had ever seen. Yet today, these ships were here to witness peace, not make war. On the bridge of his flagship, Captain Vex watched the peace talks through the communication screens. His crystal fingers drummed against his command chair. "Signal all ships," he ordered his crew. "Prepare for the peace ceremony. Lower weapons and open communication channels." Miles away on the Hive command ship, General Zek gave similar orders to his swarm. The living walls of his ship pulsed with excitement. Soon, the fighting would end. Soon, his warriors could go home. Elder Voss lifted the treaty document. Papers were made from materials that would last for thousands of years. 12 different signatures would make this the most important peace agreement in galactic history. "In 1 hour, we will sign," he announced. "The war ends today, alien." Representatives began to celebrate in their own ways. The Deepwater Alliance released happy bubble patterns in their tanks. The energy beings of the Lumina Collective flashed bright colors. The stone builders sang deep songs that vibrated through the station's metal floors. Just then, a young Zephyrian officer ran into the meeting hall. His crystal body flashed urgent red patterns. "Elder Voss, Admiral Kex. Our long-range sensors have detected something strange." Admiral Kex turned toward the officer. "What do you mean, strange?" "A ship is approaching the system," the officer said, his voice high with worry. "It's traveling faster than anything we've ever seen. The design is unknown. It doesn't match any species in our databases." Hive Queen Zara's antennae twitched with alarm. "Are you certain it's a ship, not some kind of space phenomenon?" "Definitely a ship," the officer replied. "And it's heading straight for us." Elder Voss felt a cold chill run through his ancient bones. In all his years, he had learned to fear the unknown. "Have you tried to communicate with this vessel?" "We've sent greetings in every known language," the officer said. "No response. The ship broadcasts no identification codes. It answers no hails." Through the meeting hall's large windows, the aliens could see their fleets beginning to move. Warning lights flashed on ships throughout both armadas. Weapons that had been powered down began to glow with deadly energy. Admiral Kex stood up, his crystal body now showing worried purple streaks. "How long until it arrives?" 20 minutes, the officer answered. The peace treaty sat on the table waiting for signatures that might never come. The joy and hope in the room slowly turned to fear and suspicion. After 3 years of war, both sides had learned to expect the worst from the unknown. Somewhere in the darkness of space, a single ship raced toward them at impossible speed. Its angular hull was scarred from long travel, and its weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On its bridge, humans prepared for what they thought would be a rescue mission. Peace had been so close. Just 1 hour away from ending the longest war in galactic history, then everything changed. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, staring at the main screen with tired eyes. He had been awake for 18 hours straight, but sleep would have to wait. After 8 months of traveling through space, they had finally reached the source of the distress signals. "Capta, I'm reading massive energy signatures ahead," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the tactical station. Her fingers danced across the controls as streams of data filled her screens. "This is bigger than anything we've seen before." Jake rubbed his beard and walked closer to the main display. The Vengeance was humanity's newest warship, built with the best technology Earth could produce. It had taken 3 years to build and cost more money than most planets made in a decade. But right now, looking at what lay ahead, Jake wondered if one ship would be enough. "At Amy?" he asked. "Computer is still counting, sir," Amy replied, her voice showing her surprise. "Current count is over 400 ships. Multiple fleet formations. I've never seen anything like this." Sergeant Kevin Park looked up from the communications station. His young face was pale with worry. "Captain, I'm trying to establish contact. But these aliens use completely different frequencies than anything in our databases. The computer's working on translation protocols, but it's going to take time." Jake nodded and turned to his chief. "Engineer. Lisa, how are our systems holding up after the long journey?" Commander Lisa Hayes wiped grease from her hands with a dirty cloth. She had been working in the engine room for the past 6 hours, making sure everything was ready for whatever they might find. "All weapon systems are online, Captain. Shields are at full power. The new gravitational pulse cannon is ready for testing, though we've never fired it in actual combat." "Let's hope we don't need to test it today," Jake said quietly. The truth was, Jake and his crew had no idea what they were flying into. 8 months ago, Earth had received a distress signal from the colony ship US New Horizon. 50,000 men, women, and children had been traveling to start a new life on a distant planet. Then their signals had simply stopped. What Jake didn't know was that the New Horizon had been destroyed 6 months earlier. The colony ship had jumped out of faster-than-light travel right in the middle of a battle between Zephyrion and Hive forces. The aliens had been so focused on fighting each other that they barely noticed the strange new ship before their weapons tore it apart. Neither Admiral Kex nor Hive Queen Zara had bothered to investigate the wreckage. In the middle of a war, one more destroyed ship meant nothing to them. They had no idea they had just killed 50,000 humans, or that those humans had families back on Earth who would come looking for them. "Sir, I'm getting a clearer picture of what's out there, Amy," said her voice growing more concerned. "It looks like 2 main fleets facing each other, with smaller groups spread around. There's also some kind of space station in the center." Jake studied the tactical display. The alien formations were unlike anything human military doctrine had prepared them for. Earth's space battles were fast and brutal, with ships trying to destroy each other as quickly as possible. These alien fleets seemed to be maintaining careful distances and organized patterns. "Maybe they're having some kind of meeting," suggested Kevin. "The formations look more ceremonial than hostile. Maybe they're preparing for the biggest space battle in history," Amy added grimly. Lisa's voice came through the comm system from the engine room. "Captain, I'm detecting massive power readings from those alien ships. Their weapons are bigger than anything we've built. Some of those vessels are the size of small cities." Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. The Vengeance was a powerful ship by human standards, but it was designed to fight other human vessels. These alien ships were clearly built by civilizations far older and more advanced than Earth. "Kevin, any luck with communications?" Jake asked. "Still working on it, sir," Kevin replied, sweat forming on his forehead. "I'm broadcasting standard first contact protocols, but I'm not getting any response. Either they can't understand us, or they're choosing to ignore us." On the space station Harmony Point, the alien leaders were dealing with their own communication problems. The human ship's radio signals were completely different from anything they had ever encountered. Their computers couldn't even recognize it as an attempt at communication. "The unknown vessel continues to approach," announced Admiral Kex to the assembled peace negotiators. His crystal body now showed flashing red warning patterns. "It refuses to respond to our greetings." Hive Queen Zara's mandibles clicked rapidly. "With agitation, my experience, Ships that don't answer hails are usually preparing for attack. We should assume hostile intent. Elder Voss raised one ancient hand for calm. Let us not jump to conclusions. Perhaps this species simply uses different communication methods. We should try mathematical sequences, universal constants that any intelligent race would recognize. But the damage was already done. Outside the station, both fleets were beginning to react to the approaching threat. Zephyrian ships powered up their crystal-based energy weapons. Hive vessels released clouds of fighter craft that buzzed around. The larger ships, like angry insects, on the vengeance. The crew watched in growing alarm as hundreds of alien weapons began glowing with deadly energy. "Captain, we're being targeted," Amy shouted. Multiple lock-ins from ships throughout both fleets. "They think we're hostile," Jake realized. "Kevin, broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them we're here on a rescue mission. Tell them we're looking for our missing people." "I'm trying, sir." "But the translation protocols are still incomplete," Kevin said desperately. "I don't think they understand what we're saying." Jake stared at the tactical display. 600 alien warships surrounded his single vessel. Any one of those fleets could destroy the Vengeance without breaking formation. But somewhere in this system, 50,000 humans had vanished. Jake had sworn an oath to find them and bring them home. "Amy, what's the status of those weapons pointing at us?" he asked. "They're not firing yet, but they're definitely charged and ready," she replied. "Captain, if they all fire at once, our shields won't last 10 seconds. Jake looked. Around his bridge at his crew, Amy Rodriguez had followed him through 3 different wars. Kevin Park was fresh out of the academy, but had proven himself smart and reliable. Lisa Hayes could make any machine work better than its designers had intended. They were good people, and they trusted him to get them home alive. The problem was, Jake had learned his tactics fighting other humans. Human warfare was simple. Identify the enemy, hit them as hard as possible, and keep hitting until they stopped fighting back. These aliens seemed to prefer long-range standoffs and careful positioning. "Sir, what are your orders?" Amy asked quietly. Jake looked at the alien fleets on his screen. Hundreds of ships filled with creatures he had never seen, carrying weapons. He didn't understand operating under rules of war that made no sense to him, that they were pointing those weapons at his ship and his crew. "If they want to fight," Jake said grimly, "then we'll give them one they'll never forget. Amy, prepare all weapon systems." Lisa pushed the reactor to maximum output. "Kevin, keep trying to contact Earth." "Yes, sir." All 3 officers replied. The Vengeance continued its approach toward the alien fleets. On both sides, misunderstanding was about to turn into tragedy. The aliens saw an unknown ship that refused to communicate and might be a threat. The humans saw hostile aliens who had probably killed their missing colonists and were now preparing to kill them too. Peace had been just minutes away. Now the first shots of a new kind of war were about to be fired,